Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast about the best shows that people ever saw in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Hertz, and very cool last episode we got going on here. Very cool last week of episodes we got going on here. This is the grand finale week of season 2. You've made it to the end. If you're listening right now, all of season 2 is out and available for you anywhere you're getting podcasts. We've got a great episode out this week also with actor and comedian Chris Witowski. We've got all these great interviews out with a bunch of great musicians and fans. But right now, you are listening to one of the coolest episodes, one of the coolest interviews that I got to do within season 2. And one of my favorite people on the planet now, Karina Rykman, local badass to the New York scene, national kicker of asses, bass player extraordinaire. Karina has been having a huge last couple years playing her original music with her new band. She's got Joyride out right now. She is on tour, kicking ass, making things happen. And it was really, really cool to get a chance to have her stop and chat about the best shows she's ever seen. She is also a massive music fan, and that is evident in these episodes, or in this episode. She was stopping back from late night with Seth Meyers for like 1 second before she left for her tour to do this interview. So I want to thank her for stopping and having interest to even do this at all. And it's just really cool to watch her ascent over this last little stretch here. We're at Phish at the Sphere, and there are people wearing Karina Rykman shirts to the Phish show, and a whole bunch of different shows. I think that people who have seen her live have been really struck by what they've seen. The amount of fun that she has on stage is palpable. And the amount of fun that I have chatting with her, I think, is also palpable in this interview. She's just the best. And I hope to become quick buddies with Karina. This has been an incredible season to put together. For everyone who's been supportive of the podcast, I cannot thank you guys enough. We'll do a little bit more of this in the intro. But season 2 was just leaps and bounds better than I could have ever expected. And that's all due to the support that you guys gave the podcast. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for listening to this. If this is your first episode of Best Show Ever, enjoy it. Great selection for a first one. But the season 2 has been fantastic, and I hope you enjoy all of it. But for right now, before you go and enjoy all of that, enjoy the next hour of chatting with Karina Rykman. It's just going to be sweet. Enjoy yourselves. Karina Rykman. Hell yeah. I'm just honored, tickled pink that you'd want to be on the show. So how did the relationship between you and Seth start? Because you've been doing Seth Meyers, which is sick as hell.
It's crazy, dude. This was I literally just came, literally directly from 30 Rock to this podcast, which is great. But this is my 7th stint on the show since September 2022 was my first hit, if you will. And it comes from Sid Butler, who's the bass player on the show. He's also in an incredible band called La Savi Fav, which is a sick, New York kind of indie punk band from several years ago, but they still tour and they're still like the shit. And the guitar player on the show is named Seth Jabor, and he's in that band too. He was the one where, he had an obligation. His brother was getting married in Italy or something. And it was like, oh, wow. And he asked me if I would be interested in subbing in for him. And I said, absolutely. And it was actually, I got the call literally when I was mixing my album at the barn, at Trey's barn up in Vermont.
Wow.
And I was like, oh shit. And I told everyone who was there, I was like, hang on, like I got to talk to Sid from Seth Meyers. Like, I think he's going to tell me some cool shit right now. And anyway, and he totally did. And then I shadowed him. That was in May 2022. And then the show didn't happen till September. And then the fucked up thing that happened, Cam, is they found out that I also play guitar. Which,
oh, no.
between you, me, and the wall, do I play guitar? Like, Yes, I do. Am I like the most confident guitar player? No, like I write on guitar and like I'm like I started on guitar, but like I really turned into a bass player in the last like 8 years or whatever. So anyway, they find out I like can get around on guitar. And then since that first time, September 2022, I've filled in on both guitar and bass on this show numerous times. And I'm just like the relief, what do they call it? The relief pitcher. You know, if
Yeah.
one of the two dudes goes down, which literally yesterday I get a call, Sid, the bass player, has food poisoning. Are you free
Oh,
today? Are you free tomorrow? And I'm like, totally. And actually, between you, me, and the wall, and everybody who's listening to this, I was literally loading up a tour van here. And I have these two lovely 18-year-old boys who are driving my van with all of my gear in it to Texas as we speak. And we get the van, it's like a rental and whatever. And like, it's all good. They drive it right in front of my apartment, all good, blah, blah, blah. And then it just dies. And we have to jump.
oh,
And like, so we're jumping this van and I'm getting this call from the producer, like, yo, you free today? And I'm looking at these 18-year-olds who I'm about to entrust with like, you know, many thousands of dollars worth of gear and like gonna put, you know, I'm just like, oh yeah, man, it's noon. That sounds great. And it's like 10:15. Anyway, they got the van running. They're in the deep south right now. It's all good. They made it rain and it's great to be on Seth Meyers. Yeah.
it's so crazy how it works. Like when you are an entertainer, like at the drop of a hat, you know, it's like, hey, opportunities are knocking, and you literally have to say yes. It's also funny how like you're in the middle of working on your project, doing something super fucking sweet at Trey's barn,
Right.
and then you get a call. You're like, hey, actually, something else fucking sweet is happening right now too. Like it's just
With
like
the
it's so
people
funny
that
how
you're working on the other thing with also think is sweet, you know what I mean? I'm like, "Well, this is sweet, but that's also sweet," and everybody's like, "Totally," you
that's
know?
totally sweet. Yeah.
All just nothing but dope shit. No, I'm very I mean, literally, I pinch myself ever like, this is ridiculous, and I love show businessy shit, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, like, to go to Seth Meyers every day and, like, have a glam squad that, like,
Yeah.
you know, and wardrobe and hair and like, all that stuff, and just everybody who works there is so pro and so kind and cool, and you meet everybody, like, I love stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, my 13-year-old self would have been like, "What?" And then, of course,
Yeah.
to be able to travel the country and play music that you wrote under your own name to, you know, people who are stoked to see it, that goes without saying, you know what I mean? But it's crazy shit, man. Crazy shit is happening. Crazy shit has come to light. I'm
It's
overwhelmed.
so it's so cool to watch happen. And yeah, I mean, like just to have people who are down to listen, that seems like nothing to folks who listen to music. They're probably like, oh, of course I'm going to listen to this dope music. But it's like, it's the best. It is the best to have an audience that's
Oh my
like
God.
right there with you and wants to grow with you and stuff, wants to
I
kind of
think
claim it as their own a little bit, like
who knew, man? Who knew? I know it's the most shocking thing. It's just like, wow, like, you know, if you build it, they will come, you know, or whatever. And it's just like I'm kind of like experiencing that right now. And it's just like the most humbling, crazy, like, you know, to write music and have it be enjoyed. Like I don't like
yeah.
it's crazy. I don't know. The whole thing has been super surreal. And I'm heading out on tour tomorrow. So you're catching me the last possible minute we could have done this.
Your gear is already on tour.
Oh,
It's
the
already
gear's
on.
already there. Yeah. The 18-year-olds are good to go. And everybody's going to be alive, healthy, and well by the time they get to Austin tomorrow.
I love it. I
It's all
love it. How did the relationship with you and Trey start? You got to put him on your album and work at the barn. That's pretty sick. How did that come to be?
it's crazy. I mean, I grew up, you know, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and I went to school with Trey's two daughters
Oh shit.
in middle school and whatnot. And so, like, I was a friend of the family for,
Sick.
you know, for the longest time. And, you know, it's, you know, Trey always likes to joke, like, nobody slept over at their house more than me.
Yeah.
And whatever. And just like, you know, we were just pals and stuff. And then I started going. I literally had no idea their dad was in a band. I had not a fucking clue. It was when they were
That's
disbanded, like we became
amazing.
friends, you know, and then they came back in 2009 and they were like, hey, you know, Dad's playing Jones Beach. Like, you want to go? And I was like, oh yeah, right. Oh, I think I
For
will.
what?
Right, right. And then I was on iTunes, and I Googled, I iTunesed the studio bouncing around the room and the studio Chalk Dust Torture. And I was like, okay, this is okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't like particularly sold on it, but I was like I would never turn down going to anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, hell yeah. And they brought me, and after my very first show, that I was driven home to my parents' apartment building, like in the tour bus, you know what I mean? So it's just like some of the craziest experiences. But basically, that's when I was 14 or 15. And then,
Yeah.
but I'm just a friend of the family at that point, like, and whatever. And then it wasn't until I was 22, I got this gig playing with Marco Benevento. And
Sick.
when I started playing with Marco, I remember like kind of distinctly like this thing like kind of happened. I was like backstage at a Phish show. I think it was SPAC. And Trey was just like, dude, Karina, you're playing with my buddy Marco? Like, that's insane. Like, you know what I mean? And like you sort of saw like Trey just be like, oh shit, like Karina's like a musical peer. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
playing with a guy that I used to play with and that I love and respect. You know what I mean? Like, that whole thing just was a crazy shift. And then like when I started writing my own music, that's when Trey like really lit up, and we ran
Yeah.
into each other at Peach Fest 2021.
Mhm.
Like at that time, like that was like by far the biggest, best slot of music that my band had ever played in front of, like, for whatever reason, thousands of people descended upon the smallest stage at Peach Fest. And it was
So
just
sick.
like, and we like rose to the occasion, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was one of those moments where you're like, oh shit, like yeah, like very
Yeah.
proud of that performance. Still, like I'm like, yeah, guys,
Yeah.
like, you were young and dumb and you didn't know what you were doing, but you fucked that shit up. Like that was great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that shit was dope and whatever. But then it was the next day. Actually, Trey was sitting in with Celise, and me and my band were like, there were maybe 12 people behind a stage, including me and my band. And Trey saw me. We hadn't seen each other since before the pandemic, and he just ran to me and he like freaked out about all my original music. And he starts just like laying down. He's just like, dude, City Kids, like we listen to that around the house all the time. Like he's naming all. And at this time, by the way, I have 5 singles to my name. Right.
Yeah.
So he's going in and like naming each one of them and what he likes about each of them. And I like, to be honest, I had no idea that he kept tabs on any
Right.
shit I was up to.
Busy guy.
Why would he? I don't know. Like I know, like, he follows me, but like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
But anyway, turns out he kept pretty close tabs. And then like we had a very intense, like 30-minute long conversation before he went on stage. And then he was like, you know what? Can we like get lunch sometime? There's a lot more of this that we should talk about. And because we were talking about, he was like, but you need an album. And I'm like, I'm working on one. And he was like, he just lit up. He was like, oh, anyway, that turned into a 4-hour lunch, which the next day turned into a very long phone conversation. Just like, lots of incredible mentorly advice, like just like, oh, well, if you do this, then you should do, oh, what about this? And have you considered this and whatever? And anyway, the result of this incredible, maybe 2-week long period in, July 2021 was that Trey was going to co-produce the record. He would play on it. And he was giving me the barn and giving me Bryce Goggin. Like, so like he just completely blessed literally everything. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, what? And that's maybe the most succinctly I've ever explained this to somebody, but you know what I mean? That's sort of the progression of things was, you're a kid, you're friends with the kids, it's all good, blah, 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 blah. You start playing with Marco Benevento, you start writing your own music. He likes it. Next thing you know, he wants to help. And that's like his hugest thing is about original music. He cares so much about furthering the tradition that he has furthered himself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just like, he doesn't want to see it die. And he thinks, the only way forward is, not cover bands. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, no. And he tells me like, when you're a band and you start playing a cover and people know it, they go woo. And you get addicted to that woo because you're like just feeding them something that they know. And he's like, you see, when you hear woo, ignore it. You can't think about that shit. There's no that. Like, you have to break, you know what I mean? You have to bring new original shit into this world. and it's not going to be woo immediately. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
you get used to that, and that's super important. That's just like one of 100,000 things that I've
Yeah.
imparted from this band. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to grow, you have to keep breaking through and like, you could play Joyride forever. People love that song, people love the album, but like it's going to take growth and that's like yeah, you can feel it at a Phish show when he busts out new music like he's still doing, which is
Right.
insane, but like the crowd's like whatever, and then like 2 shows later he's played it in a way that is now it's embraced, and he saw that down the road, because he's done it so much, and
Totally.
super cool mentor to have. Also just so funny of like your friends being like, you want to come to my dad's show? And you're like, oh, that's cute. Yeah, I'll come to your dad's little show. And then it's like ripping ass Phish show.
Oh,
Like,
geez.
it's like,
Yeah, I was like, wait, oh shit, damn. I had been to Jones Beach before that show for very weird concerts, actually. But that was definitely like I've never seen Jones Beach look like this before.
yeah, right.
That was really crazy. And then a week and a half later, or whatever it was, they took me to Bonnaroo, and
Damn.
that's going to be an honorable mention later. We're going to honorably mention that, but we're not there yet.
Oh,
It's not there yet.
okay.
No,
A little Tarantino.
put a little thought to this. Let me tell you, I'm not just fucking going through the motions here, Cam. I'm here to talk about some shows, some good, some bad, some honorable. I'm out here. I'm prepared.
Man, let's get into it then. Let's totally get into it. Well, let's start with the first one. What was the first concert you ever saw in your life?
Dude, I'm pretty sure the first like actual concert I saw was I think it was Benny Tuckman's 12th birthday at Madison Square Garden. We're talking 2007, and we're talking, listen to this, you're gonna love it. Fall Out Boy, plain
Dude.
white tees, Cute Is What We Aim For, and the Gym Class Heroes. That is a 4-pack of something, let me tell you.
Listen, in 2007 too, that's like
was high, the
dude.
emo undercurrents of this sort of pop punk whatever shit was going on, and I will say, I mean, I was really into that song Sugar We're Going Down, the Fall Out Boy tune. Like, still, I mean, you still hear it and it still slaps, I'm not gonna lie to you.
I
And
loved that album. I loved Fall Out Boy. I was
Taylor,
such a big Fall Out Boy fan. And
that
that
was
tracks.
it really was kind of something. And just, I mean, of course, like I right there, I definitely I fell in love with the concert experience. Like, I was like, holy shit. I had been to Madison Square Garden for basketball games and whatnot, but like to be there for live music was a whole other thing. And I very quickly was like, oh shit. And actually very quickly after that show, Van Halen was playing the Garden. And I
Shit.
figured out, like, I don't know, before that moment in time, like, it's funny. I sort of didn't realize that you could buy concert tickets and go, you know what I mean? I was like, we can go. Like, I remember being young and seeing Aerosmith on the Beacon Theater marquee, and I loved Aerosmith as a kid. And I was like, holy shit. And I would drive by and be like, Aerosmith. Wow. But the idea that you could actually go to something like that was very much lost on me. Like, I wasn't like, yo, mom, like, can we go? I was like, it just exists.
Yeah.
And it's awesome, or whatever. Like, you can imagine what it must be like or whatever. So anyway, I remember quickly thereafter, I got some Van Halen tickets, 2008, and it was a big kind of, that was like the shit that I was really into. I was into Van Halen, like, my plane was going down, you know what I'm saying? I was
right.
Whereas the Fall Out Boy was just like, that was a good thing to do with your 12-year-old friends. And it was nice that there was a birthday party that took me to the Garden for live music. But, very quickly thereafter, the Van Halen show was like, oh my God, like, that really blew my mind. And then, yeah, things started spiraling very quickly after that. After that, it was like, ooh, 2008, I'm in 8th grade. And just like, the floodgates have opened. You can go to concerts, and boy, can you, when you're from Manhattan and like,
Oh yeah.
just faced with it. And then I was like, on every mailing list and blah, blah, blah. And you get the emails from Bowery Presents and AEG and Live Nation. It's like, so-and-so is coming to your town. So-and-so is coming. I'm like, holy shit. And then very quickly thereafter, all of my friends were just people I either played music with or went to see live music with. And then,
Yeah.
and here I am, I stand before you today, a decade plus after that. And the same, it's good when you find what you like when you're like 13, 14, and then you just stick with it. It's great. Really no need for figuring much else out. It's kind of awesome. I'm like, cool. So I still play music and go see music. Kind of end of list, Cam. It's kind of what we got going on over here. I like eating at nice restaurants.
You've never changed.
I like going to the beach, but that's, after that, I don't think we got any other hobbies, or anything. I think that's where it all ends. Yeah.
Was you said that you were like super into Aerosmith and Van Halen. Was that your folks' music like influence on you, or was that you finding that yourself?
That's a great question. That's very much me finding that myself. And my folks are like the coolest people ever, but not in the rock and roll way, if you will. My parents are academics, and they both teach at Columbia University, and my dad's a 77-year-old philosopher, and my mom's 73, and teaches French up there, and they're they love what I do so much, and they come and see all my shows, and they're like in tune with the set list changing, like they're like
it's amazing,
like super deep into it. And they love, like, when they hear music, they love it. But like, my dad listened to classical music when I was growing up while he wrote, you know what I mean? And that's basically, and like a little Brazilian music somehow was on the agenda. Like Caetano Veloso was adored in our house. I don't know why. Love that guy. It's fucking awesome. But all right, but there was literally there was no Beatles, no Stones, no Zeppelin, no like all the shit that I like ended up really gravitating towards was certainly not like the doing of my parents showing it to me. It was a lot of like friends, parents, just, and then of course, like I was sort of the type of kid who like, once you're interested in something, you just go down the fucking rabbit hole and search everything. And, for my birthday, I'm like, I want the Rolling Stones 500 greatest albums of all time book, whatever. And then I'm downloading every single one of them on LimeWire. It probably takes, 14 weeks or whatever to get them all. And they're all mislabeled and all that shit, but, no, I think that's good in the end for me. Like, I think the fact that this interest in rock and roll, or at least like popular music since 1950 or whatever, 1955, little Bill Haley and the Comets, and then kick it off. You know what I mean? Like, it's a self-motivated thing. It was never like, my parents weren't like, let me show you happiness is a warm gun. You're going to love it. Hope you love it and carry on our tradition of loving this. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that. I just sort of developed it myself and found all my like-minded friends myself, So I think that's cool. And it makes you not, I don't know. For me, I think it's cool because it just sort of was like, no, this is my thing. Like, they have their thing, but this is like very much my interest, and they're down with it, and they love that I love it, and it's all good. But like, my parents are professors, man. It's different. It's different shit.
It's so funny that that music has just been more from their era, so then you're coming in and you're like, you ever like, you guys never checked out Rush? And they're like, no. And you're like, what the hell, dude?
Totally. I remember being like, yo, Ma, you gotta check this out. Like, the first fucking 6 seconds of Tom Sawyer. It's like the greatest 6 seconds of recorded music. You're gonna freak out. And she's like, oh, I do like that. But I grilled them on several, like, growing up. I was like, you couldn't have shown me the White Album. You couldn't have shown me Revolver. Like, come on, it's not that hard. They're like, well, yeah, we listened to that shit when we were growing up. It's great. But like, I don't know, just sort of
moved on.
Kept
You're
on
like,
doing stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I'm like, how about a little Let It Bleed? No, you couldn't. What?
Nothing.
Monkey Man?
You're like, you're doing the reverse dad game. Like they're like playing some Beatles in like a grocery store, and you're like, oh, who sings this song? And they're like, and you're like, come on, you know this.
Dude, that is me to a T, and it's almost sad. I'm an only child too, so like, only children, they say, we peer with adults or whatever. So like, I'm like, the kid who wanted to have like, the most knowledge about this shit, you know what I mean? So like, yes, I'm 13 and I'm like, yes, let's name all the Beatles albums in succession, and then the Zeppelin catalog, and then the Sabbath catalog, and who plays bass in Black Sabbath, who plays, like all that shit. So I'm that
I
good.
mean, it rang true in that Rush video, and I think there's a lot of like, folks who are more our age get a lot of shit for being like, oh, you think you're heady because you bought a Rush shirt or whatever. And it's like, no, I actually I probably know more about this band than you do because I researched it incessantly because I
Dude,
had the internet, dog. So I know everything,
it's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the internet really helped me watch La Via Straniato at Pink Pop 1970 whatever 100 times. I'm gonna
On
be
demand.
on demand. It's there, man. It's there. And you could study what Getty does with his feet and his hands. And then you could reverse it, and then you could play it at 0.5 speed so that you could learn that shit. Like, yeah, no, that's real shit. And I'm glad I know I have a fellow Rush fan in you, which I appreciate that. And when you made your Rush video, which went, just about as viral as my stupid Rush video, I was like, oh shit. Now we're best friends. Love it.
Oh man.
Love it.
When I saw that video, I was like, oh man, we're about to be boys.
I know.
Because I bring up Rush in like every episode of this pod. For people who listen to the podcast, they're like, you really like Rush? I'm like, I guess.
Like, dude, it's fucking the holy triumvirate, dude. What are we gonna say?
I don't really. Yeah,
it's important.
I can compare anything to something that Rush did, for sure. We can be
100
talking about literally anything. Man, that's sick. That's so funny. Do you have a worst concert you ever saw in your life?
Oh man. I mean, I was thinking about this, and my head goes to like before I was like call it a professional musician or call it whatever you want to call it, right? But
And we
before
will call it that.
okay, let's call it that. That sounds
We'll
good.
call it that. Yeah.
Before I was whatever I am right now, I worked at a concert promoter or a promotion company called Rocks Off that like was very, famous for putting 3-hour long shows on boats that went around Manhattan. Like,
Sick.
and then, you put a band on a boat, sell 600 tickets, people get loaded. It's crazy, great experience. Fans are wonderful. Blah, blah, blah. So that I did that for 7.5 years, like working as the GM of this company and whatever. And the other thing that we did was we would charter buses to take New York City fans from 34th Street to like not the Prudential Center, like what do you call? Oh yeah, the PNC Bank Arts Center and Jones Beach and all this stuff, like stuff that's just a little bit outside of New York that your licenseless New Yorker ass doesn't really want to drive to per se or whatever. Or we would market it as like it's like a party bus, but you sell 56 seats. People come, you can drink, you leave your stuff on the bus, treat it like a locker room, go to the show, and then blah blah blah, etc. So when I was working for this company, I used to work these buses. Yeah. And I used to be like the MC. I would like check everybody in on the will call list, bring everybody on, everybody would be seated, and then I would take the mic and I'd be like, what's going on, Black Sabbath fans? How are we doing? And crack jokes and whatever. And then I would just be like, treat this bus like your locker room. You can leave anything on it. My man, Kangaroo Jack, the driver, which was a real guy, by the way. Kangaroo Jack will be here all night guarding your shit with his life. But one thing I got to tell you is when the show's over, 30 minutes after the show's over, this bus is leaving. And if you're not here, we're leaving without you. So, do with that information what you will. Anyway, this usually works very well, the system of taking people to these concerts. But on a few occasions, things went horribly awry. And, I have so many kind of scarring experiences doing this. They definitely tainted my impression of the shows. So first, I'm going to say worst show would be me running a bus to Jones Beach to go see the Dave Matthews Band. The year is probably 2013. I'm probably 19 years old or something like that. And I just went through all those motions, blah, blah, blah. And the bus, first of all, we had like a million routing errors, basically. Like the driver didn't have the GPS put in for like a bus, which meant that the clearance was all wrong. So she couldn't go under these.
Oh shit.
It took about 4 times as long as it should have. And then people like have mutinies and they start screaming at the driver and screaming at me. And I'm just like trying to play a little ants marching over the fucking speaker,
To calm them down.
calm them down. I'm freaking out. I'm like young, you know what I mean? It's like a whole thing and people are like losing their shit. Anyway, some people like in the middle of like traffic insist to get off the bus on a freeway and Uber to the show or whatever. And I'm just like, oh God, oh sweet Jesus, oh God, it's all gone awry. And then like I remember arriving at this Dave Matthews show just despondent and like people had jumped ship, people are pissed off, they want refunds. I'm like, oh my God, am I responsible for this? I'm just I don't even know. But the whole thing was a disaster. And you just feel so bad about this situation for these poor people who have missed the entire first set of the concert because of the wrong turns and the disasters and the turning around and the blah 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 and whatever. So I'm like, oh God. So I remember just being like, I don't want to like say I was crying, but I was at the second set of this Dave Matthews show, just like, dude, what the ever loving fuck has gone wrong in my life, such that I'm responsible for these old people not getting to the concert on time and the whole thing being a disaster. So that, I would put that pretty high. But I would be lying to you, Cam, if I didn't say that, didn't happen on a few other occasions, notably Kiss and Def Leppard. Big bad. I remember like one of the wheels of the bus like caught fire and like shit was all right. Like things, those, I would say those eras when it went well, by the way, big success. Great service. Great service. When it went bad, really just tainted my experience of the whole thing, pal. Really just not what you want. So I'm gonna go for that Dave Matthews concert as my words.
And just like thinking of like a bus full of Dave fans, all in their stuff. They've like some guys got like a Carter jersey on.
100%. 100%.
They got their visor. Yeah. They're drinking Everclear.
Oh my God. Like if it had all gone well, it would have been their best night ever, man. Like they would just be like, yeah, like look at us, man. Oh God. I also I've softened up a lot since then. Like now I'm a total like I'm in, we're cool. Me and I'm into the Dave Matthews Band at this point. At that point, I was like a big metalhead and a big Phish head, and I loved the Allman Brothers Band, the Grateful Dead, but I was like, dude, Dave Matthews, I can't get behind this guy. Are you serious? Like he wears his guitar above his nipples. It was so goofy and so fratty to me. I was just like, oh, I hate this. Like Phish is cool. Dave sucks. I don't think that at all anymore. I really respect his shit and I love the songwriting. Just to let you know how much I've matured in the last 10 years. But, at the time I was like, dude, this is so brutal to listen to. Everyone's upset. People are Ubering home. I'm fucked. Like this whole thing is a disaster. So anyway, that just to put that in context for you. It was not exactly like I was like, oh yay, at least I get to hear Trippin' Billies tonight. I was like, oh fuck me. This is the worst fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. Anyway.
I gotta be out here on the lawn with the most Vineyard Vine shirts I've ever seen in my life.
Literally the vibe. I'm like, oh God. It's like Phish fans, but like 100 times worse. I'm gonna fucking throw up. Oh yeah. So that ranks high. But again, now to reiterate, Dave Matthews, if you're listening, big fan, love your shit. Carter, I worship you. Get a little Rapunzel in there, and I'm like, yo, I am ready to go. A little two-step, I'm in. I'm so down now. Everything is good between me and the Dave Matthews Band now. Just putting that out there. It wasn't then. I was really into Slayer. I was into Metallica. I was into Rush. I was into Black Sabbath. Like I didn't, like a guy playing.
You can't be seen at a Dave Matthews lawn if you're into Slayer. You can't just be.
Man, like it was already like liking Phish as much as I did. I already was kind of like, all right, like people don't understand that this is like really like proggy and complicated and awesome. They just think it like is like mellow. Right. And I'm like, no. Like it's fucking awesome. You don't understand. Like this awesome, And then with Dave Matthews, it's like, oh boy, I don't have the legs to stand out with this shit. I am not going to defend it.
I saw I saw myself a good deal of Dave shows back in the day, and I think
Mhm.
you could have guessed that even if I didn't say that. I
I
think you could have been like,
mean, it goes either way here. It's all good. It's a safe space, man. It's all good.
"I'm his target, demo, man.
Target cinema.
I am, like,
I'm in
right."
it. I'm with you right like now. I'm fully, like sometimes I even have Dave Matthews Tourette's like walking around. I'm just
Yeah.
like, lost myself just like wow. Damn, Karina.
It's
All
a
right.
it's an intoxicating way to speak and and sing, and if anyone ever caught you in New York, like, letting out a little baby, like, walking down the street, that would be good shit.
It's definitely happened. It's definitely happened at this point. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, I'm a changed broad. Things have changed for me. I'm softened up. I'm like good to go. No,
Yeah.
no problem. I love it.
You got a pair of boat shoes.
Really into cornbread. You know about cornbread?
Hell yeah.
I'm like, yeah, all right. This one cooks. I like this. And I enjoy his sort of sardonic banter. He's like, this song is called number 41 because it's the 41st song we ever wrote. All right. And I'm
And they
like, yeah,
just bust into it, yeah.
I do it. I'm like, this guy's great. He's funny. He's self-aware. Like it's me who has the problem. You know what I mean? Like he's all good.
Yeah.
I've
Uh,
grown, Cam. I've changed.
That's the episode of TV is you go to a Dave Matthews Band show being like, "This is gonna suck," and you get cracked open, and
Totally.
you become
Totally.
your heart grows 3 sizes that day. And
I'm like, my dad, we live in Rowayton. I drove my dad's Mercedes to the show. Would you like a grilled cheese? Like, Jesus Christ.
you got Birkenstocks
Yeah, I don't
and
know.
boat shoes. You got Birkenstocks over your boat shoes.
I'm dying, dude. The whole thing is great. The whole thing is so great. Yeah, totally.
Um,
Let's put that in
well,
our showroom.
and it's hard to pick your best show ever. And so, do you have any shows that you would be remiss that you wouldn't bring up on the podcast as not the best show ever? But
Yeah,
close.
I mean, there are several, and I'm glad you give people, this opportunity to really just, lay it all on the line here. There are many. I mean, there are more than like it's there. It's almost my brain is just flooding with incredible memories. I would say that Bonnaroo 2009, 15, like when it wasn't the first night of Phish that like I understood as being like what I was kind of like, oh, okay, like right on. But it was the next, and they, me and Trey's two daughters and my best friend Isaac, who I have a podcast with as well on the Osiris Network, Inappropriate.
Nice.
Isaac's
Plug.
little brother, we're all there and we're in the practice room watching like Phish rehearse with Bruce Springsteen, and I
Yeah.
was not lost on me, that was like some crazy ass shit. And they're like running, Proud
Wow.
Mary and Mustang Sally and all this. And I'm just like, whoa, like in Glory Days, I was losing my mind. And that show, I was kind of like, yo, I get it, and that just sort of from that point onward, I was like, I think there's something to really be understood here from this band. You know what I mean? And then the rest of that summer and henceforth, I basically became a complete, savant nerd, whatever you want to call it, and learned so many Phish songs, guitar and bass, like just, me and my friends, what we did, we jammed that music among other things, but like that was deep. It became canon. It became like what we did, we went on Phish tour. We saw a million shows,
Yeah.
that ranks high. That moment of like being at Bonnaroo 2009, taken by the Anastasios and just being in this whole thing. We were backstage with Snoop Dogg. Like there was the last day, the backstage was split between Snoop and Phish. And it was just
Dude.
like, this is so sick. And the whole thing was just like completely knocked my brain open. I knew it was at that exact moment where I was like, I didn't know I would be a professional musician, but I was like, whatever I need to do to be around this, if that's taking tickets at the door, if that's mopping up afterwards, if that's working at Ticketmaster or Live Nation, if that's, working for Rolling Stone. I didn't know at the time. I was a freshman in high school,
Yeah.
but I knew that I would work in music. I didn't know what it was, but I knew whatever I needed to be close to it. And that was a huge one, Another one moving right along. Same summer, actually. Same summer. I'm a huge geek out Nine Inch Nails fan. You have to know this guy.
Damn.
Big,
Sick.
big. Travel to see him. I've seen him at I know you're an LA guy. I've seen him at the Palladium. I've seen him at the Bill Graham. I traveled to see them. Like, I'm like very, very into Nine Inch Nails. And
very sick.
In 2009, kind of reverse fishing it. You know what I mean? In 2009, they were waving goodbye. It was their wave goodbye tour, going away for a little bit, as opposed to yo, we're back on the scene. Fluffhead, you're crying,
Right.
So we're reversing the whole script on all that. Anyway, so they are on tour playing what they claim to be are their last shows. And on that tour, they played 2 nights at Manhattan's own Terminal 5. Terminal 5 is not a beloved venue around these parts. It's, I personally have had some really excellent concert experiences there, but people by and large think it's a swag venue, and which is a shame because it's a 3,000 cap venue on the west side of Manhattan, and it's huge and ostensibly beautiful, but the sight lines are really tough if you don't get your spot in time and blah, blah, blah. And basically, that represents the company who owns the building. When they built Brooklyn Steel, they took all of the negative stuff about Terminal 5 and we're like, okay, on our next venue, we're going to fix all of this. And they really did. Anyway, Nine Inch Nails played Terminal 5 2 nights, and I went both nights. But one of the nights, I remember they played Reptile, one of my favorite songs off the Downward Spiral. And the dude from Bauhaus, whose name, it's almost pathetic that I'm forgetting this guy's name right now. He's a fucking legend. Singer of Bauhaus descends from the ceiling, hung from his ankles, with more strobe lights and more haze than you've ever seen in your entire life. And he utters the first line, which is, "She spreads herself wide open to let the insects in." And I was just,
wow.
and then he's going, "She leaves a trail of honey to show me where she's been." And I'm like, dude, what? It blew my 15-year-old mind. I was like, this is the sickest thing. I was crying. Like, I was just like, it was like, that's the thing about seeing Nine Inch Nails, and I think why I like them so much. It's such a visceral, aggressive, but also tender, but also weird, but also incredibly musical experience. Like, it's just like, I don't know, there's something about Trent Reznor and his intensity that translates to everything he does, and I am hooked on it, have been since 2009, and I was just like, dude, I walked out of that show being like, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen, so that's a heavy one, man. That's a heavy one. And then, just because it's more recent for me, and it just stands out as something where I like literally, like, I almost, killed everybody in front of me by virtue of going so ham. But we have to mention it. It was Rage Against the Machine at the Garden last summer.
Whoa, yeah.
That was
that
was just a thing, dude. And I was in my friend's, corporate suite, like floor suite, like extremely fancy, JP Morgan vibes, where I'm just like, uh-oh, y'all ain't ready for what I'm about to unleash. Y'all ain't ready. Uh-oh. It's like I shouldn't have been anywhere else in the building, to be honest. But it was a wonderful seat and a great view for your girl. But I was just like, I mean, I had been waiting my whole life to see that band, and then I know every word, every nuance. Like, that shit was just, and it went, it was one of those things and the whole place erupted. And of course, I've watched every live Rage Against the Machine video on the internet, so you've seen these like crowds, 90,000 people in Sao Paulo going crazy for guerrilla radio. And then you're there at the Garden, you're like, oh my God, it's happening. And it's these 4 dudes that I feel so connected to these fucking 4 dudes. I've been listening to my whole life. I'm just like, dude, they're doing it. And it's just that amazing blend of metal and hip hop. And it's every single time. So that really blew my mind. That's a recent sort of like, I gotta mention that because that was something.
I mean, there's so much cool stuff in there to unpack of what you just said. But I mean, shit, when you talk about like Nine Inch Nails and Rage Against the Machine, or like any sort of like metal or metal related outfit, like people who aren't familiar with that music think about the, like you said, aggression and like the visceral nature of it. But like, because of what they create in that aggression and like the command that, like, you talk about those old Rage Against the Machine videos, like the command they have over like a massive, massive crowd, with how aggressive they are and how hard they turn it up, like they're able to get to these very, like you said, like sensitive and like emotional moments, and that they are equally as in command of in those moments, almost more so. And you can feel like the room locked in on like what's going to happen next, that you're just like waiting for
Oh my God.
this eruption. And we talk about tension and release on this show like all the time when it comes to best shows ever.
Sure.
And those bands, I mean, some of the best to do it. I mean,
Pros.
create that stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. Honestly, today on Seth Meyers, we were playing Kick Out the Jams by the MC5 as our like audience warm-up song. And I was listening to it. Great song, obviously, blah, 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 but it brought me to the Rage Against the Machine cover version of it on their like covers record. And I listened to like a bunch of that record, which, you know, I definitely grew up on, but it's been a minute. And I was just like, oh my God, like their version of Microphone Fiend by Eric B. and Rakim. Just, I mean, I was on the subway this morning, like, yo,
headbanging,
staring at me because I'm going absolutely ham on the subway train. Nobody can stop me right now. I'm just like, they, you know, the tension, the release, the, you know, it's so impactful. It's just like masters of bringing it hard. I don't know. So yeah, definitely that's real shit, Ken. That's real shit. And those, I don't know, like for me, like a moment like that where every like, and it's with this groove based music, you know what I mean? This stuff is about like you're locked in, and this 4-piece is just like absolutely just so tight and so good, and you know the song so well. Nothing like it, man. Nothing like it. So I was very glad.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. And bands, those two bands, I haven't gotten to see Rage Against the Machine or Nine Inch Nails, but I can imagine that they can go from 0 to 60 very quick. That they can explode on a dime.
I would say Nine Inch Nails has a lot more sort of nuance to their music. You know what I mean? Nine Inch Nails is a very, very, you know, cerebral, interesting act in the sense of like they can get super tender, you know, whereas Rage Against the Machine kind of doesn't, you know, which I love. I love both for what it's worth. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that you need to be multilateral to be good. You know, I think you can just fucking do this one thing really well, unite the people. That's fucking incredible. I'm in fact really jealous of that, you know, people who do one thing really well. Fucking awesome, you know. Not that, and I would also argue, you know, I'm not saying that Rage is one speed the whole time. I don't think that at all. But Nine Inch Nails is like, dude, like Trent goes over and plays like fucking piano ballads, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's like, I like absolute screaming, complete lunacy, strobes, metal, fucking crazy ass shit with a blend of industrial vibes. And you know, you're dancing, you're rocking, you're doing all the things I like. You know, it's a hell of a show. But next time they play out, I'll definitely fly out and I'll take you. It's gonna be great. You don't even have to ask me.
I'm gonna look like such a wuss at that show. Like, you're gonna be in there moshing, and I'm gonna be like, I don't know.
Like, oh my God, Nine Inch Nails, so crazy.
I'm used to just wiggling on a lawn in my Birkenstocks.
Like, Karina, this is not Boyd Tinsley. Like, ooh, no, it's not. It's not.
Different show.
Different show.
Different show.
Listen, it's all good, man. It's all good. Different experiences.
Different cup of coffee.
Amen. Different day.
Different roast. But what about your best show? The best one you ever saw in your life? I know it's hard to pick. It's
so hard to pick, but you know, when push comes to shove, I think this one ranks above all for a lot of reasons, and you'll see why. But the year was 2013. You know, it's like maybe like I'm about to go into my sophomore year at NYU. And there's a VMA after party at the City Winery. Not a venue that I'm like would ever fight any battles for at all. In fact, I would often avoid it because I like to avoid hummus and crackers type shows. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, great. Like don't need to see Martin Sexton tonight, like at the City Winery. Like, what the fuck? No offense to Martin, God bless him, but I'm kind of good, you know. But anyway, this was a very special night, and it was billed as a new power generation featuring CeeLo Green and Larry Graham. And I was
Oh.
like, okay. And so New Power Generation, that's a Prince relate, basically everybody sort of had an inkling that Prince was going to show up.
Oh no.
Especially me and Isaac and our friend Jake. We basically were like, yo, I'm pretty sure Prince is going to show up at this thing. And
Oh my
I
God.
think, and so, the whole thing, it starts at like midnight. And we're like, oh, hell yeah. All right, here we go. New Power Generation. Let's fucking go. So we go. Awesome music. Shit is popping. We got our boy CeeLo Green. We got Larry Graham, who for me, bass player, I'm like, dude, this is so sick. What the fuck? Amazing. And then 2 hours go by, maybe more. And everybody's, whispering, is he going to come out? Is he going to come out? The vibe was high. Everything was right about it. By the way, this is a weeknight, very much
Yeah.
not a Friday or Saturday. And fucking His Purple Majesty takes the stage
Oh my
in
God.
like a 400 cap club, on a weeknight at about 2:15, 2:30 in the morning. And I'm kid you not, he did not stop until 6 a.m. to the point where
Wow.
Isaac and I, we were, 18 and 19 respectively at this concert, and whatever. So we were just like, good to go. We didn't have a job. We didn't have any responsibilities. We didn't have children. Like, you know what I mean? We were just like, fuck yes. But the attrition rate was ridiculous. Like people were leaving because
Yeah.
he played for so long and so late. So I never will forget the sun coming up and you can see it through the windows of the city winery. And Prince is just going off. He played 38 songs that night. And I just looked at I was like, there's absolutely no way that that's not my best show ever. There's no way. Like, what else? What on earth is better than that? I really couldn't tell you. It was just like, and it was so funny because at the end of it, to say that there were 100 people left at the end of the night would be an exaggeration. I want to say there were maybe 70 people there at the very end, but we were good to go. It was just funk on Prince on funk. It was just like such a surreal, like, yo, like, I can't even believe we were lucky enough to be here and we're experiencing this. And special night, man. Special night. And then just walking out into broad daylight, New York City, people are going to work. People are out and about. They're running. They're like living normal lives. And, I'm like, oh, wow. Holy shit. Like, what do we do now? And I remember like trying to go to bed at, 6:30, 7 a.m. and just being like, dude, this is different. This is fucking different. So yeah, I think that's probably my best show ever.
Yeah, that feeling like you're still buzzing from the show, but it's the sun is up already. It's not
Oh yeah.
like you got home at 11, and you're buzzing from the show. It's like, and Prince is like, you hear the greatest musicians and performers and entertainers ever like share their stories like a fan when they talk about Prince because he creates these it's like everything he ever did was a once in a lifetime moment for everyone who was there. And that's like,
he's a magical creature. He's magical.
Yeah.
So it was just like that. Just like you say, you were just like, I can't even believe he created something like this for us. And we're here and we're teenagers and it's not lost on us. You know what I mean? It was just really, that was some crazy shit. And, God rest his soul. Gotta say. Huge loss for humanity. That is just, kind of the best to ever do it, if you ask me. I don't know. I can't name you somebody I like more than Prince, really.
I just
yeah.
ultra talented, driven, creative dude who just, like created an aura around him. And, he's a guy that I never got to see live. And anytime Prince comes up in conversation and there's someone who's there in the room who had seen Prince live, it's always like my best show ever is Prince. Because he's just, like you said, it's just the most unrelenting funk of all time on top of, he's one of the greatest guitarists of all time.
100%. And just the entertainer of the millennium.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he's that guy, he's a mythical creature, the greatest entertainer, a world-class guitar virtuoso, plays bass like a motherfucker, dances, sings. He has 100,000 records to his name. Like, are you joking? And they're all amazing. Like they're that good. So
yeah.
that was some crazy shit. But you should check out the set list. You'll be like, oh damn, no, he didn't. But then I'll
And
be like, yes, he did.
it's so like I would love to see the rest of the week of programming at City Winery. Again, not shitting on City Winery, but it was probably like, you
Dude.
know, washed up comedian Wednesday night.
Sure, the Fab Foe, you know, or no, again, no offense to those.
It's no offense to these, but then it's like, and then Thursday night we're gonna have fucking the biggest throwdown ever from Prince until the sun comes up, and then Friday night we're gonna go back to washed up comedian.
Yep, 100%, which is great, which is totally great.
Which is great for that comedian.
Totally cool. All
whoever
good.
we're talking about, it doesn't matter.
Awesome. Listen,
Jim Brewer, it doesn't matter.
It's all good. It's all good. Listen, I like jokes about heavy metal. I love them. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, dude. God, that is just special evening type stuff. That's so sick. Is there like when you think about like what you've got going on right now, and like isn't it crazy to think that like there are people who leave your shows being like, dude, we just had Karina just throw down for us for 2 hours, and it was like the bet, and we got to meet her afterwards and everything. Is it crazy to kind of think about like creating those sort of like moments for folks? Because I feel like you are already doing that.
Thank you, dude. I mean, that just, it's so surreal to me, and I can't even I think because I grew up having such a compulsion to go and to see live music in such an intense way, and like I know what that environment did for me as a concert goer. It means so much to me as a performer to is curating these moments for people theoretically, and just getting so much insane joy out of doing it, that I hope that translate, you know what I mean? And people say it does. They're just like, nobody is having more fun on stage than you. And I'm like, well, I love this shit so much. Like, I literally love it so much. And the idea that my joy could permeate a crowd and leave people feeling like, dude, like, Karina's putting on a show and it's a party and everyone's invited. Like, that's what I want to create for people. You know what I mean? I want it to just be a super positive, welcoming place where you can forget about all your bullshit in your life for 2 hours and then leave feeling really stoked, because I had that with Prince, and I had that with Rage, and I had that with Pearl Jam, and I had that with, the fucking 75 Allman Brothers shows I've seen, and like all of these things. It's like, I know what it feels like to be in the crowd and to get something so needed out of these live music experiences. So, again, I am shocked, humbled, honored if people leave my shows feeling any sort of way. But, God willing, it just keeps growing, and I'm able to kind of architect these, super fun, dancey, rocking, psychedelic, exploratory, fun zones. And that's all I want. And by the way, like, it's just as self-serving as it is anything else too, because I love that shit and I need that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's to be able, it's a circle, it's like, oh my God, like, you guys enjoying this. You don't even know how much I'm enjoying you enjoy. Like, it's like, holy shit, such a circle of holy fuckness, and I'm just stoked that I'm able to do this at all in my lifetime, and if it ended tomorrow, it would already be enough,
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't end tomorrow, and hopefully it just keeps going. But every second I'm able to do this, I am pinching myself big time.
Well, Circle of Holy Fuckness is certainly the title of this episode. That's That's for sure. Sure.
Let's get real, man. Let's get real. What it is.
Yeah. It is so clear that you are, having fun up there. If you've even seen a 2-second clip of your live show, it's like you can tell who is having a blast. And yeah, that's when you're in an audience, like, you don't have to know a damn thing about the bass. You can understand when a performer is having a good time, or when they're phoning it in. And like that, then that's how that circle relationship gets started. And it's very cool to see you ripping out there and people being stoked, and like people being stoked that you're going to be on the show. I got to like release that you're going to be on the show beforehand, and people are like, holy fuck, fucking great. It's sick as hell.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. So you've got shows coming up this year, some sold out stuff already happening. Do you have any shows that you're playing alongside anybody that you're stoked to meet or like play alongside or rub elbows with?
A ton. I mean, like, talk about freaking out about, like, I don't know, the one that jumps out to me is when we got, personally invited to play with Derek and Susan, the Dusty Trucks band in, their home state of Florida for their own festival. I was just like, wait, like, that is crazy for me on a lot of levels. So that I'm just like kind of pinching myself. A
Yeah.
ton of amazing festivals, we're all right. Like, it's, we're speaking and it's the middle of February, and I feel like I'm playing like 100 festivals this year. I'm just like, wow, like, if I could only, like, it's so cool. Every, you know what I mean? Like,
Name every band on every lineup that you're playing with.
yeah, Sublime, Tosh Sultana, Lake Street Dive, Daniel
Good. Keep going.
Country,
You got 400 to go.
Yep, Andy Frasco in the UN, definitely a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all that stuff. No, I mean, it's the sort of, to me, I mean, to be a band that plays festivals like that, it's like you have your festival friends and you make new ones and like you see each other all summer long and you're just like, that shit is so fun. It's amazing. You're just like backstage and you're meeting so and so and hanging out with your old friends, and it's a very convivial vibe.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. Very stoked for that, and stoked for all all the headline stuff. I'm doing some shows with the Disco Biscuits in a couple weeks, and they're my dear friends, and I love them very much. And they've really helped me and rolled out a real red carpet for me in a lot of ways, and I just appreciate them for that. And as dudes, they're like the coolest, funniest guys. So I'm stoked, and Jazz Fest is gonna be crazy. We're gonna have a great Jazz Fest. I'm way about all that. Yeah, no, I mean, it's all happening. And my New York show that we announced and put on sale last week, it sold out, 650 tickets in 7 hours. I'm like, that's, for me, unprecedented. Like, I almost shat myself. I was like, wait, what? We're sold out now? We're already sold out? Like, it's so, people are like, hey, I want to come to Racket, but it's sold out. I'm like, holy shit, you're right.
Yeah.
It did sell out. That shit is crazy. Like, that's
like, maybe next time, buddy.
Oh yeah, totally. Maybe if you had bought in the pre-sale, things would be different for you. It sets a real precedent for you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm half kidding. It's like, yeah, maybe that'll teach you to buy in the pre-sale, sir. My bodega guy. Like, hey,
right. He's like, what the fuck, man?
He's like, yo, you come in here every day. I'm like, yeah, man, totally. He's like, so do you think you got me for Racket? I'm like, man, maybe next time you got to buy in the preset. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, of course I got you. Of course. Anyway, it's all very exciting, Cam. I'm just like kind of having a moment of just like, complete immense gratitude, and it's really kind of exciting to see, growth, or whatever you want to call it. It's less growth and it's more continuation. It's the ability to keep going, because
momentum.
It's not, this is all a series of false peaks. You know what I mean? Like, theoretically, I don't care about, the next thing or the next thing. It's just like the process is so fun, and just being able to do it and playing with my dudes and keep, I don't know, like if we played 15 festivals last summer and we're playing 30 this year, I'm like, that's just more opportunities for fun. And it's just really cool to just be able to keep going. That's all it is.
Well, it's so sick to hear from you. I'm honored to have you on the pod because your schedule's nuts these days, and so I was happy to carve out an hour and talk about some shows. And I wish you just the best on everything moving forward. I can't wait till you come to LA again.
Oh, I can't wait. I'll be there in November, and I can't wait to see you there. And thank you for having me, dude. This was so much fun. And I'm so, I know we're gonna be besties IRL in some point, and I look forward to making some comedic sketches with you.
Okay.
I feel like it's gonna happen. We're gonna have a viral reel. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be about probably Dave Matthews. Maybe not. Maybe it's about
Listen,
something else, but I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great.
you're you're the one working with Larry David these days, and so maybe you've got some
Right.
sort of writing, yeah, that you want to
Totally. Dude, I'll
let
put
me
you
in
in
on.
touch 100%. We can get LD in the building. He can talk about Carter Buford. That'd be great. Like we've
Get
got
him out here.
it's gonna be great. Thank you so much for having me, dude. What a pleasure and great thing you got going on here. Great thing you got going on here. I really was stoked to talk about some concerts that I have enjoyed. Seriously.
Can't can't tell you how much I appreciate it,
Oh,
Karina.
come on. Blast. Total blast. And you be good, all right? You be good. And I'll see you in Los Angeles, if not sooner. But this has been really spectacular. Thank you, dude.
I appreciate you. So that was a little bit of music from Loom. Also, a great conversation that I had with Karina Rykman. Um, Guys, that is season two. That is that's what we got going for season two. There's another episode out right now with actor and comedian Chris Witowski that you should absolutely be checking out. He tells maybe the craziest fish story that I've ever heard in my life. Um, K I wanna thank Karina so much for coming on and being, just a huge guest on this season. I hope that you guys enjoyed that conversation. She is quite literally the best, and like she said, I hope to become buddies. I hope that we're old pals soon. Um Again, guys, I cannot thank you enough for the support that you showed, best show ever, for the kind words that you guys wrote in messages or the kind words that you shared in person when we saw each other. Thank you guys so much for listening along. And I want to thank everybody who helped out making this season happen, whether you reached out and wanted to be a part of the episodes and we got to make that happen, or to the management and the people who put me in contact with some very cool folks to interview this season. Thank you guys so much. Um, there will be a season 3 coming up. I'm already in the works on that, and we're going to hope to get that out a little quicker than we did between season 1 and season 2, just because I'm having a lot of fun with it right now. And so I hope you guys feel the fun that we're having on the, the podcast. I hope you guys feel the fun. And I hope that you enjoyed this season. All of season 2 is out right now. Go enjoy all those episodes. If there's one that you missed that you're really looking for, they're all out for you. Everything's out. Um, Thank you all so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support. Um, until next time, guys. Have a great show.